Hello, Capsuleers, and welcome to Talking in Stations, Coffee Side Edition. Today we have a very special episode to welcome some of the most notorious fleet commanders of EVE Echoes, responsible for some of the largest battles that have been held in EVE Echoes. We're going to welcome them today to talk about the different challenges they've faced as they've become an FC, some of their catchphrases, because you just truly have to believe. And we're also going to hear about some of their stories and encounters, and maybe go into a little bit about why you should consider becoming an FC in Echoes. Check it out.
Group shield booster should be on. Are we losing anyone? Looks like we're okay. Thorax. Spread points, they're leaving. Spread points. Just lock. Point anything you can.
Kill the Scythe, guys. Kill the Scythe. He's at 74. Good job. Keep on him. Followed by Judah. Followed by Lilith. Scythe right now. Followed by Judah. Followed by Lilith. Good. Kill Judah. Then follow it with Lilith. And then we're going to go to Yanjun again.
They're melting. We did it, boys. We fucking did it. We did it. Kill him. Then the Cyclone. Prop mod off. Kill him before he docks. Cyclone. Get the Cyclone. We did it, boys. We fucking did it, you legends. I'm in half armor.
We're warping back in. It's not over yet.
They will warp on us.
They're gonna warp on us. Get ready.
All
Anchor
right,
up on me.
it's
Prop
over
mod
yet.
up.
Finish this
Not over
fucking
yet.
cyclone, guys.
Kill the Cyclone. Kill the Cyclone. We're burning downwards.
All right, welcome, Capsuleers. Welcome to our FCs who are joining us in today's episode, where we're going to be talking about what it takes to become a fleet commander. We have various FCs from around EVE Echoes. We're going to be starting with the Crimson Null Kingdom with Chris Green. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm alive and doing well. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into becoming an FC.
It seems no matter where I go, I get a little bit into a leadership position, regardless of how I end up. It's just my personality. Ever since I used to play EVE Online and was put in charge of a small gang room, and then bombers as a scout, and eventually leading my own scout teams and bomber teams in EVE Online. That was over a decade ago now. But now I'm in Echoes. I dropped EVE Online a while back, but Echoes pulled me back in, and I can't get away from the FC position anymore.
It's always like that position that everybody thinks they want, but once they're in it, they're like, what did I do to myself? So let's see. Karinsky, we know your face from Genesis Federation, obviously. Tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't know you and how you got into becoming an FC.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I'm a longtime nerd as well, back from the EVE Online days. I actually got my start as...
Awesome. Nam, you're here from Obsidian. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's fine for us.
Okay, and we are back. The Dark Force Kasoi is taking over, guys. Sorry about that. Nam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're from Obsidian, and you're an FC with us.
Yeah, so I'm Nomex in game from OBS, main fleet commander of OBS. I'm kind of pretty new to this whole thing. I played EVE Online, but I really just played like solo, small gang stuff. This whole fleet commanding thing is brand new to me, so I have a lot to learn. And our team kind of slowly growing from doing the really, the small gang stuff, getting more on the medium-sized stuff. So it's been pretty exciting.
Awesome. Now, right below me, Michael JD, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
How you doing, guys? I'm Michael JD. Been playing EVE Online basically forever at this point. Still haven't been able to win. I've been FCing for, I don't know, going on a decade and a half at this point, and just kind of slipped into the position in the Silent after joining Raid.
Awesome. Very nice to have you. And let's see, some people are asking about who the guy in the mask is. Tahini, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I am Tahini, the CEO of Black Legion. We are part of SSH Alliance. My experience in EVE goes back all the way to 2003. So I like to say I've done the full circle. I've been with Pandemic Legion for 4 or 5 years. I was with NC Dot for a while. I was with AAA. I don't know if some of the older guys know who AAA was. Even Goons. So I've done the full thing, and it got a little bit stale for me. So I moved to Eve Echoes, and I'm finding that we are doing quite well. Let's say in Eve Echoes, we're enjoying it. It's a fresh start, and it's awesome. We're enjoying it for now.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
And we, of course, know this recognizable face. Sovereign, tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been FCing for.
Well, pretty much any game I always end up falling into some sort of leadership position. Probably my ego more than anything just gets thrown in there. I've been playing EVE Online for as long as I can remember. 2 years ago, year and a half ago, I quit EVE Online, moved on to Echoes, and we started to try to do the nullsec type stuff, but Genesis just kicked my ass with that shit. So I ended up moving on to doing the small gang stuff, and that's where I am now.
Awesome, awesome. Well, not awesome that you got your ass kicked, but it's just awesome that you're still checking out in it, right?
It's just losing is learning. Losing is learning, man.
Yeah, that's true. And there's always a shot for redemption, right? I mean, in EVE, anything can quickly turn around. But without
you
further
can't fight them.
I think Sovereign has the right idea. Small guy.
And last but not least, we have Raw with GoldenHorde. How are you doing today?
What about yourself?
Fantastic. So how long have you been FCing for?
Been FCing for roughly about 10 years. I spent most of my time in EVE Online and HiSec in the beginning, and then probably about 2010, 2011, I started looking into Goons, and I grew up in Goons with their militaristic progression of the FCs.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think you're going to be kicking it off with our first question of the day, which is what got you interested in becoming an FC? So you started out in HiSec, but what was the thing that what got you interested? Because it is a pretty a big position that requires a lot of responsibility. So kind of dive into that.
I think in the beginning of my nullsec career, I started actually getting a little bit more into the PvP aspect, and I started learning a little bit more about fleet combat, and I was really interested in that. And one of the great things about the Goons back then was that they had troves of documents and research that you could just go and read and figure out how to do things, and it was every aspect of the game. So that started to intrigue me, and I just started doing a lot of research, and FCing started to become one of the more interesting aspects of the game, because you would be able to take control of a fleet or multiple fleets or an entire wing, or continue and furthermore. And then it was something that I, because of my demeanor, was interested in, so I started going down that route. And if all the Goons know that to become an FC was literally just to talk to your current fleet commanders and go on a roam with them. They'd backseat and then they'd qualify you. Well, that's to get in, and then you had to prove yourself throughout your career. And I think it was that achievement, that challenge, that brought me into FCing and kept me in as an FC.
And I love that you bring up the fact that it comes with some challenges. So would anyone else here, I don't know, Krinsky, why don't you tell us some of the challenges you've faced as an FC? Because there's so many challenges we can experience when you're commanding such a large group of people.
So so challenges, there's many, right? So we could talk about the server issues in EVE Echoes. We could talk about Genesis specifically as a very multinational alliance. At any given time, my fleets, especially for like call to arms, right? You could have 50, 100 Russian speakers in a separate channel. We've got 50 to 100 Germans in a separate channel. So as a senior commander for the Alliance, coordinating hundreds of English and then also having the deputy commanders having to coordinate, it makes things very difficult. So it was easier in EVE Online because we had better tools, TeamSpeak and the like. Adjusting to a mobile platform where everyone basically uses Discord, it's definitely a challenge, but we work through it a little bit every day. And I'm sure at some point on this stream we'll talk about the servers. That's also a nightmare. And so, Sop, kudos to you for finding the small gang, because you don't have to worry about the server just crapping out under you, which is what we have to deal with in these large wars.
Yeah.
I'd just like to add, in SSH we have a similar issue. We have some French people, we have some people that speak other languages, so I can totally relate to that. And then also when you're facing, let's say, a Chinese foe, it's also very hard to call targets because they're all squiggly lines, and there are issues when it comes to languages and translations with names. I've struggled with that often. I'm like trying to focus that character, squiggly name, and there's two next to each other. They get confused sometimes, the fleet.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Tahini.
That's it.
I think the tools that were provided are very limited in scope and haven't really been planned out with the thought that we are going to be fighting far above 10 people per fleet. I mean, as seen with just the other night, we had 1,000 people in system, and just the desyncs and the crashes having to get back in fleets are just overloading the servers. So I think the biggest challenges as FCs in this game face are the servers and the lack of tools provided by the developers.
And how do you handle that pressure, JD, when you have tools disconnecting and desyncing? What is that like? What does that feel like when there's all these people relying on you, but you're desyncing and people are lagging out? How do you handle that pressure?
So one of the ways that I found to deal with it is I have like 4 different devices ready to relog my character back in. I'd say when dealing with DCs and fleets and things like that, you just kind of monitor it and you trust that your people who have been appointed to lead like your subfleets are picking up these disconnects and getting them warped back to the fleet. Just the other night, what we've developed in Silent is pretty much a very smooth transition. If someone crashes, the next target caller steps up. We have a very, very good anchor who has been able to maintain connection through a lot of these major fights. So it's just a good flow is the best thing that we can offer.
I will say that, like, my first time flying with those guys too, that is something I specifically noticed myself, is that, I mean, JD was disconnecting like every 30 seconds, but it was like he's back on, and then someone else just naturally picked it up, and then the next guy, I disconnected, another guy picked it up, and it was a seamless commands happening. There was never really any silence. It was just people knew exactly what to do, which I thought was pretty impressive.
There were 4 to 5 FCs that were continuously picking up when one would drop, and it was something beautiful to watch, honestly. You guys got, 300 kills out of that fight? Congratulations. It was awesome.
Definitely some good fights in there. Now, Krinsky, because of you having some background in EVE Online, would you say that being a fleet commander in EVE Online was almost easier in a sense just because of this accessibility to the tools, or would you say that EVE Echoes is still easier to fleet command in, or just different problems?
I think it's different. I would say to some degree EVE Online was easier because of the in-game tools and because of we use TeamSpeak. So TeamSpeak had a better functionality. I could shout to other channels. I could hotkey it so I could talk to my logistics in another channel, whatever the case. Like right now, I'm even having to try to explain to my logistics pilots specifically, like, guys, don't worry. I know you feel kind of useless because it's hard to repair people when you're stuck in a 10-man fleet. You can't see broadcast. Like EVE Online with the broadcast system made it a lot easier. And I want to backtrack real quick to what you were saying about the disconnect and the flow. We have some really excellent FCs and people that will pick up things. I always have a secondary or tertiary target caller. I'm really praying that December they really work out something with tie-dye and with the server stability, because to the point of the lagging disconnects, I don't know how many people are tracking. We tossed down a bait station the other night to cover a actual station we wanted to put somewhere. We did it in Chinese prime time to lure out DP. They brought 450 guys, which doesn't sound like a whole lot because we've been in the 1,200 person battle on the server. They jumped in 50 ibises first, decloaked them all in sync, and it crashed all of us on grid. So we were set up exactly where we should be. We were ready to go. By the time they jumped in, I had 3 people left in my fleet, not because of casualties, but because 7 out of 10 had disconnected. We had entire fleets of people go to black screen. Over 50% of our fleet went to black screen. So like at that point, like there was no way to actually put people back in fleet. Nobody could even load their fleet menu to see who had command. So to Silent Alliance's point about picking it up and stuff, typically, yeah, that's what we do as well. And unfortunately, I don't know what happened the other day with the server, but we couldn't even get that far. So I'm hoping December brings something better. Otherwise, I'm going to be with Sovereign in small gang PvP, I think.
Hey, I'm always a big fan of the small gang PvP. That's where you get that's where you can kind of really start tracking the strategy. Because, I mean, a lot of these lags and desyncs make it so that these large battles are really hard to track on where the strategy came into place, essentially. Just because, like what you're saying, if a bunch of ibises came in and then your guys are losing, I mean, that's, that could definitely be very disappointing. I could see that for sure.
Yeah, and especially without the fleet menu system that EVE Online has, without the broadcasting system specifically, it makes large fleet battles very hard to do anything strategically with, unless all of your pilots like have a hive mind and know exactly what to do on their own.
Yeah.
And to branch off that, I think the lack of a squad, then wing, then fleet tier system that missing is a huge deal and something I desperately want translated from EVE Online to Echoes.
Well, they're actually bringing that in very soon. They've already sorted out the multi-fleet with the skill stuff, which will kind of be wings in its own right. It'll be coming pretty soon.
Oh, sorry. Do you know any more details that you want to share about that?
Basically, it's just going to be the way that I was explained it. It's going to be skills. You learn the skills, and you'll be able to add more fleets to your fleet. So it's a multi-fleet system. So it's going to be a lot better in the way of being able to control everything that's going on. You'll be able to broadcast through the entirety of each wing. But that's all I know as far as it goes so far. Was supposed to be coming in November, but I think they took it back to when SOV comes out in December.
I see.
I think the biggest challenge we're going to be facing is the fact that the devs have a split focus, whereas your FCs are the ones who generate the content for the game and keep people playing. They're busier trying to give you a Halloween skin rather than provide real content.
Ooh, that was bitchy.
A lot of devs, right?
Now, Krista Green, you were mentioning about the different kind of subfleets. Can you go into like what the different types of FCs there are, if there are some sort of sub kind of fleet commanders?
Yeah, so you have FCs with different skills and talents. Some people are just more attuned to smaller gangs, so like the 1 to 10 size fleets, which are squads in EVE Online. And then you have people that can handle multiple fleets at the same time, larger groups. Those are the wing commanders, and then you have fleet commanders that can kind of direct from a well zoomed back position. And it's a key to find people that can do all of those things, and it's really lucky if you can find somebody who can do all of them. But you need at least one person in each sort of role, and ideally it's like a tiered structure where you want more of those squad commanders that can handle filtering orders down and getting their people onto the things that they know you want to do.
I thought the question you meant are there different types of FC personalities?
There are definitely those too.
Well, why don't you tell us about the different personalities? Because I mean, what he was kind of saying was what I was referring to, but I'd like to hear about the different personality types.
For example, MJD, like in our alliance, is a very calm, collected FC. He gives orders very concisely, one time. He's very level-headed. My way of FCing, I'm yelling like a banshee down the ears of my pilot, and it produces the same results. Some people prefer this type of FCing, some people prefer the other, but for me, as long as it gets the job done, I don't mind if I have to repeat commands once or twice. I just need them to be in the bubble, I need them to be doing this, I need them to be doing that. So there are, I've noticed major differences in FC types, yes. Some are more energetic, some are more laid back. If you ever flew with Shadu, he's the most calm FC I've ever seen.
I mean, unless you're shooting battleships at 27 in armor hacks to you.
Yeah, well, fair enough. That's a very good point. Yes, but there are definitely different characteristics. I think I've seen.
Raw with the Golden Horde. I mean, you seem like you're a pretty chill, relaxed guy. Would you say you're more of this calm style FC?
Oh, definitely, absolutely. For the extent that I've been FCing, you know, every one of us knows that just straight adrenaline rush that you get. Doesn't matter how many ships are on field, you just get straight adrenaline. And after you FC for a while, you learn how to channel that into being effective as opposed to being scarce and just letting it run you instead of you running it. So you know, after a while, I've been able to kind of calm it down. And yes, I am the calmer type of FC.
It's interesting you say that because you know, the more and more fights that OBS is getting into, the more and more the calmer I get, and the more collected I'm able to be. We had one of our best fights a few days ago. It was just like a 30v30. It was awesome. It was one of the most evenly matched brawls we've ever had, and it was just, I don't know what happened, but I was just a lot more calm in that fight, and I was able to see the whole picture a lot easier and make the right calls and make more precise commands, and people are following it easier. But before that, I'm just like all over the place. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm learning as I go.
That's the way to do it, man. You gotta learn.
What I will say is, I think with experience, your FC style kind of changes. You know, Tahini's talking about screaming like a banshee and things like that. You know, probably a decade and a half ago, I was definitely more of the Tahini style, and things have just kind of changed. You know, as you just keep doing it.
It really depends on the situation. It depends on the situation.
Yeah, it definitely.
Sometimes you have to keep repeating. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like when you start FCing for a long time, and the longer you FC, like you'll find yourself calling out the same target 40 times in a row to make sure that everyone in the fleet is understanding who you're trying to target. So you go blah 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 blah, and he's already dead, and you're still saying blah blah. Okay, blah 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 blah, and you'll say it over and over again. But I'm pretty calm unless someone really screws up. In EVE Online, for example, I could not keep my cool at all when we were doing a bombing fleet of 150 bombers, and we had everyone lined up perfectly to drop a bomb on an entire blob. Like each bomber had a single bomb to drop the EM bombs on this entire fleet. It would have been beautifully perfect. And some fucker approached a different direction and bombed our entire bomber fleet.
Oh my god!
So my entire fleet exploded, and I'm sitting there like.
What do you do with the guy?
It's almost like it must have been on purpose.
No, he just said, "Oh," he was like, "I pressed the wrong button" before we all exploded.
Oh.
How did you handle it?
No.
But it is worth it. It's worth it for those times where it works.
Yeah,
it is. When they add it to Echoes, it's going to be rough.
Oh.
But that would lead me into the next question, I guess. What does it take to be an FC? Because the one thing I'm hearing, or it sounds as though like this is resounding, patience. If you want to be an FC, it sounds like you have to be patient. So who can attest to this?
Well, it depends on the actual FC themselves as well, because I know FCs that if they have zero patience and they run 600-man fleets, and as soon as one person fucks up, they're gone from the fleet, they're gone from the corp, they're gone from the alliance, they get blacklisted, and they never get on the Discord or TeamSpeak again.
Evo. With all due respect, that's mostly Evo, where everyone's a vet.
Yeah. I mean, mostly Evo, but I haven't seen many. No one's really releasing their videos with the actual audio.
Yeah, I think these two guys are. We have Tahini and JD release their videos with comms, so it's cool. It kind of gives a cool perspective.
I'd love to share this with you sometime. I have some
Tahini's just asking for views, basically.
There was a comment just now. I think Mama Rex was talking about.
I would love to know what he thinks. That's all.
Krinsky, what was that?
There was a comment from Mama Rex just now in the comments talking about I have what she refers to as the dude bell curve. The more I start using dude in a fleet or dudes, I'm starting to lose my patience. So if a fleet is going well, I probably won't say it. And then if people are not doing what they're supposed to do, it's like, dudes, please get in line. Dudes, please anchor up. The more I start saying dudes, things are not going well because pissing me off. And I think that's something I picked up from Space Chutney for you EVE Online vets. I did a lot of secondary FCing for Space Chutney, and when Chutney would get mad, everything was dudes, no, you fucking dudes. Okay, well, the fleet, we're going home.
Now,
That's
okay.
your catchphrase. Now we know. That's considered a catchphrase, sort of.
I will say that in a something that you need to have as an FC is you need to have some type of be able to demand authority of a room. Like you need to be a good speaker, and you need to have a sense of authority in your fleets, because sometimes people will talk over you or talk while you're FCing, and I think that's just something that comes with being able to speak in a room, speak in front of people, and not demand it, I guess, but there's a certain level of respect that comes along with it, and that comes over time. You have to earn that respect from your people to be able to actually listen to the commands that you're giving. And I think it's a type of leadership. I can't really pinpoint exactly what it is, but I'm just, like I said, I'm kind of learning as I go.
That's why I think it's actually harder. It's harder in EVE Echoes at the moment to do the larger fleets, because a lot, like in EO, I would say it's easier to do the larger fleets because everyone's used to it. There's not many new players in EVE Online. In EVE Online, they know not to talk during a fleet up. They know the basics of where to go, what to do. But now we've got hundreds and hundreds, thousands of players who have no idea what's going on. So it takes that little bit extra amount of patience right now. That's why I think Echoes is harder right now.
I find the Echoes community tends to be a lot more casual about comms, chatter, and general comms etiquette, whereas you don't see that in EVE Online as much.
Now, Krinsky,
I think it really depends on where you're at. Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Krinsky looked like he was going to be saying something. What were you going to say in regards to this?
I was just going to respond to Nam there. I think what you're looking for there is it's command presence, right? You have to people have to know that you are not just the guy in charge. You're not just space important. You know what you're doing. You have to have some kind of confidence. And one of the things I teach my junior FCs is don't be quiet. Don't get quiet, because if you get quiet, especially as an unknown FC, people lose confidence. So if you're learning to FC, just casually talk out loud to your guys what you're doing. Like, okay, guys, I'm checking the map just a second. All right, we're about to move in just a second. Start aligning to whatever. Let them know what's going on, so that way it's not just silence. Because once it's silent, especially for an unknown FC, if they don't know you and you get quiet, then they start to lose it. Then they start to interject what they want to do, what they think should happen, and then your fleet goes to a mess. And then you, as a junior FC, are going to get kind of washed out in that as well, especially to the point about the comms discipline with being a mobile game. People aren't used to the serious spaceships.
This is serious business, guys.
That's good advice. Thank you.
Now,
It's
JD,
kind of funny.
Oh, go ahead, JD. I was gonna ask you a question, but I want to hear what you're gonna say.
I was going to say, it's kind of funny you say that, because I always teach our up-and-coming FCs to, if you're going to fail, at least fail confidently.
Right. Magic school bus, right? Get dirty, make mistakes.
Exactly.
That's always good advice. Maybe not in the super large-scale ones, but, take out those small fleets and practice and just try something, because something is better than nothing. So JD, tell us, what do you do, or how do you handle a situation when you're giving commands and it's clear people are not listening to those commands? How do you respond?
Get out.
Rage.
So there's a couple different ways that you can actually deal with that, and it's actually very specific to the situation. I found that whether you're going to repeat yourself, another 1,000 times, as some of the other FCs have pointed out, but there's also the shock value. Find someone who's screwing up, call them specifically out, and then generally the rest of your pilots are going to start paying more attention. There's no one easy way to deal with someone who's not listening, because there could be a multitude of things that are drawing their attention. So there's shock value, there's trying to say, oh, check, I have more intel, and then everyone starts listening, and then you just start giving commands again. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to deal with it.
And
Calling the first individual out, that is something that I have found to be very, very useful. So you get the guy that's not approaching, and it takes valuable seconds away from what you're doing, right? But if you can identify that one person that's not in the bubble, call their name out specifically, hey, approach, and then that really does help. It helps everyone else. Oh shoot, I don't want to be the guy that gets called out.
Now, Raw from Golden Horde, you mentioned that you kind of, when you were in Goons with EO, that you had to kind of go through some training, kind of get selected. Is that how you guys manage in Golden Horde, or do people get to apply for FCs? Because we know that there's different personalities who sometimes want to become an FC, but I feel like almost always, it's always the case where people who should be an FC, they don't necessarily want the role. So how do you guys go about it in your team when you are selecting your FCs? Do you just kind of pick them as you see fit, or do you try to have people apply and then put them through a program?
I think at the beginning of the game, it was just kind of throwing everybody together. You didn't really know who you were getting or what capability they had, especially in, just the basic corporations. You didn't know what was going on. So early on in my corporation, especially early on in the game, I started training. I immediately started taking them out into PvE sections and showing them, hey, this is how you go through this is how you're going to operate. Here are the differences if you're an Evo guy that EVE has that can benefit you, such as the in-game commands where you can tell your fleet where to go. So from the very beginning, we started as a corporation training. And then when I got into the Golden Horde, my objective, or part of my what I was told that I needed to do, was take care of Corp, KORP. So I had to take control of the Golden Horde military and start training and try to get these new guys to Eve, not necessarily just new to Echoes, just new to Eve, period, up to par with everything. So it was kind of a broader spectrum at that point. And then over time, you can see who has more of an ability, who has more of a talking demeanor, commanding aspect, and then you can start picking them out. And we structured our military so that if you show initiative and you are effective, we have a position for you, and we have enough people on the ground that we have enough eyes out there. If you're doing something and you're showing initiative and your name keeps popping up in after action reports and you're doing well, then we'll ask you if you want to be in that kind of position.
So it's something that kind of people have to work up a little bit towards, but you've shown them the ropes. And I think that kind of leads me into the next question is, what's the best way to practice becoming an FC?
Just do it.
Do by trying. Just do it.
Do it.
Don't even think about losing. Just the first thing that comes into your mind is you're going to take some guys out, you're going to get some kills. If you think you're going to go into it thinking you're going to lose some ships straight away, your confidence is shot, your commanding presence disappears. You just need to have confidence that you actually might win this fight. And just at least even in your head, if you don't believe it, the fleet needs to know.
Tahini, what were you going to say?
He's basically saying you gotta believe, which is what I've been arguing.
You gotta believe. You gotta believe.
Boys. You just gotta believe.
Now that's one thing I've noticed watching some of your videos, Tahini. You seem to have a few catchphrases. Where do these catchphrases come from? I guess what are they all? What are all the catchphrases you use, and then where did they come from?
They just sort of spawned out of nowhere in a couple of battles. Where's the deeps? Where's the deeps? I'm always kill him. And there's a couple of others. But they were created by others. I didn't have an actual catchphrase. It wasn't my. I believe is one of them. But yeah, people selected them, I guess, for me. It wasn't a planned catchphrase, let's say.
But it works, right? It motivates people. It gets people excited.
I do want to, yeah, it does boost morale, and when you scream that, people just go bonsai in, and you can get a lot of kills. I want to touch on a question you mentioned earlier about how to deal with desyncs and lag. There are many different ways. Like we've discovered, for example, closing the overview on the side reduces a lot of disconnects. That's one.
Yeah, it does.
Number two, if the anchor, like your anchor, is approaching the enemy fleet, don't go very fast. This allows people to reconnect and apply. Some people love to burn with their MWD, but then people are logging in at the back and they can't get in there. So moving the anchor steadily is one other way to do it. There are multiple things you can use, but those are the main ones, I would say. It's just, if you're moving in these giant, huge fights, try to keep moving slowly. It's difficult to move quickly with like 400 guys disconnected.
It also
another way.
I was gonna say another way also, and I know I was always a big proponent of the emulator, but use your device. instead of the emulator. If you're going to play in a big battle,
Yeah,
the
device
device
works way
will
better.
work way better.
I've heard this, but I don't know which device. I've been hearing the Android.
I use an S20 Ultra and it works just fantastic.
I use an
Even in
iPad, and I disconnected maybe only twice during the 1200 battle in 6 BPS.
Which kind of iPad? The new one?
iPad Pro. Yeah, the newest iPad Pro.
I'll note that down. Maybe I'll have.
Yeah, it's a good device, solid.
Krinsky?
Also, make sure you turn all your settings to the lowest possible for graphics. That will help you as well.
Yeah, potato it as much as you possibly can. Krinsky, do you use an emulator or a device when you?
So I do use an emulator, but when we do the large, so I use an emulator anything that's like a couple hundred or fewer. Otherwise, I use my iPhone 11, and I found the 11 can even run max graphics. When we did the 1200 system battle a couple weeks ago with Red, I had max graphics on it. Unfortunately, after this recent update, even at like no graphics at all, it still is crashing. I'm not sure what happened with this last update, but it seems to be a significant spike in disconnects.
Do we know when tie-dye is coming, guys? I haven't been following.
December. I'm pretty sure they said December. It's in their Trello.
We really know when anything is coming. I mean, their lack of communication and the fact that they can go through their AMAs and give us opposite answers, not even just wrong answers, but opposite answers on what they're going to fix in the next patch, and then just blatantly lie to us. None of us know what's coming.
They've been making progress, sort of. They've been adding things quickly. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say developers have been doing a pretty damn good job. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, you need to add this, and this. It's a lot more complicated than we probably understand on just even adding minor features. I think that they've actually been adding a lot of stuff as the game has been coming out, and they've been very responsive. I keep an eye on their Trello board because they update that Trello board pretty often, and it will tell you exactly when things are coming out.
Yeah.
All I will say is it's very similar to EVE Online. Soon trademark.
Now, for anybody who doesn't know what tie-dye is, can someone explain what tie-dye is for any of our viewers who might not know the difference between time dilation?
Hell on earth.
So the easiest way to explain it, at least from my perspective, is it's artificially slowing down the server. So your mods are going to take longer to cycle. Everything's going to slow down so the servers can kind of stay up and handle everything together. That's the layman's terms.
Because of the sheer amount of data that is going into the server with large fleet battles, they take what would be 1 second of game time and they expand it across 10 seconds of real time. And it makes sure that everybody that clicks a button, that little string of data, and then 5,000 more people, or for this, it's going to be 1,000 to 2,000 more people at the time. It makes sure that all of that data is calculated properly and efficiently through all of their nodes.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to tie-dye. I know like some people don't like tie-dye. I'm actually looking forward to it because I think it'll make the strategy a little bit more rich right now. Because right now the strategy is all related to managing disconnects and just getting everyone just paying attention, being able to follow, and just all that stuff. But I think the strategy will change once tie-dye comes because the servers are hopefully going to become more stable, and then it will become more about the strategy of the whole grid and managing that. And I think that's going to sound a lot more interesting to me. I actually think tie-dye in general will work really well on mobile. I don't know if any of you guys play other mobile games. I play Hades Star, which is a very strategy-rich, very, very slow-paced space combat game. And it sounds weird, but it's really, really fun on mobile, and I think it works really well on mobile.
The main issue with time dilation for me is that the Echoes isn't quite a casual game, but there's a lot of casual gamers, and making a fight that would normally last 30 minutes last 2 hours is going to cause a hell of a lot of problems, because that's what it's going to do. Slowing down the rate of modules, slowing down how quickly everything happens, just makes the fight last longer.
So I agree with that, but think about this. Sorry, Tahini, I don't want to talk. Go ahead, Tahini.
I was going to say, but you get a cleaner fight, and
yeah, it's good for us.
in my experience with tie-dye as a smaller fleet fighting a larger fleet, I'm able to get way more kills and pull off
Yes.
more precise maneuvers just because, I have that time to think.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good thing for us. We're mostly here elite or like pretty good players. For us, it's a good thing. Maybe for the noobs, it will be a little bit rough. Maybe.
I want to
Yeah,
I want to I want to
especially
say
blobs.
something about what you said, Sovereign. So casual gamers, I actually think depending on how they implement it, it actually could be good for casual mobile gamers too. If you don't disconnect when you close your phone, let's say you're like dropping. There's not dreadnoughts in the game yet, but say you drop your dread fleet or you drop your battleship fleet and you're cycling modules slowly, player checks their phone every 10 15 minutes and now there's new target to start attacking. Now I'm going to that target. As long as it doesn't warp you out when you close your phone, if there's some kind of setting where you can stay on anchor without actually being online, that might be interesting. I don't know.
Only if you bubble yourself. Only if you bubble your
Yeah,
own
you can
fleet,
do it. You bubble yourself. Yeah.
or you
Let me
drop
just
a-
add that based
then
on
you
our
log off.
player feedback from some of the large battles we've been in, people who we've explained tie-dye for, even as semi-casual guys who log in only like for a few major things a week, they're looking forward to it as well because they would rather have on a Saturday spend hours doing a fleet fight that they can actually play versus everybody gets set up, everybody goes in, and then everything crashes and they can't play and they wind up back in station. That's miserable. Nobody wants that at all. I'd rather them have the choice of show up in tie-dye or not versus they show up and they can't play.
Sovereign,
I'm just
were you
one
there
of those guys
yesterday?
that hate. Sorry, Tini, go on.
Did you see the fight that happened yesterday? They were like 900 against 300. The server cap was at 1-2, and literally
Yeah.
every person was disconnecting after 2 minutes. But what I noticed was when you come back in from the disconnect, everything is smooth. I can lock up and fire everything.
Yeah.
You get about 2 minutes, and then it starts to
I've
get
cleaned.
funky. Disconnect.
That's
You come back in, suddenly you can fire and rep and do everything. Then again, 2 minutes, disconnect. So it's almost unplayable, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is.
why
Yeah,
it takes
no,
that
it is.
time is 'cause it loads in everything within that 2 minutes, and once everything starts loading in, you start reaching that limit that your phone or your
And
emulator or
the
whatever
gun
can hit.
cycle, it doesn't stop cycling, or like your gyro just keeps cycling indefinitely. It's crazy. It's
There
Right.
was
I think
there was an
assumption is
option.
they're gonna
So
do
go.
it. Go ahead, Sub.
so. Sovereign,
No.
go ahead. Sorry.
There was a thing that tie-dye. I hate the idea of it. I understand why they need it. I understand why it's needed. I understand why it needs to be there. The same as EVE Online. But they also said that if one FC of a large block decides one day that they are going to attack another large block, and you know that the system you're going to be fighting in is going to take a lot of people, the devs have said that they could introduce a system where if you tell them beforehand, then they can strengthen that one system for the entire fight.
They
So
did
like
that
you can,
with our fight. With
Yeah.
our
yeah, they
fight
did.
yesterday.
They're working
They
on
did
better
that.
versions of it, but
I mean,
To be
All I-
honest,
tie-dye though, I think, and when you're talking thousands of people.
let's be
Yeah.
honest though. Yesterday it wasn't as bad. Like I usually disconnect more. Yesterday was a slight. I noticed like a 10% improvement. Maybe that what he's saying is right. They're slowly improving it. I felt it. I don't know if the rest of you did, but there was slight improvement.
So
What I wanted to say on. Go ahead, Krasinski.
I spoke to CC or NetEase Melos a couple weeks ago about it, and what they told me was they can reinforce nodes currently, but they have to know before downtime. So basically, with the weekly
day.
downtime, if your fight is going to happen before the next downtime, you're out of luck. They can't do it right now. So I mean, hopefully that'll get fixed. The other thing about there's a lot of comments in the chat right now about what we're talking about is the data load, right? So if they implement tie-dye similar to EVE Online, you might spike to 100% tie-dye when everybody loads in. But once the server catches up, once everybody's clients are in sync and everything's working, the tie-dye draws down. You don't necessarily stay at 100% tie-dye the whole time. It will back off and speed up. Maybe not get back to 100% speed, but it won't be, the full time dilation the whole time necessarily.
Also, something to Sovereign's point about the casuals versus us hardcore gamers, especially a lot of EO guys. I mean, how many EO guys do you know that are casual EO guys? The longevity of EVE Online was, the longevity of EVE Online was those hardcore players. It was those guys that got sucked in and then, lost the game. So for EVE Echoes to be a mobile game, Echoes and NetEase have a huge opportunity here to push out of mobiles or a bunch of casuals. They have that opportunity to start creating an in-depth, heavy game for mobile. And I think that if they continue to cater to the casuals, that's never going to happen.
I completely agree with you on that. I
Yeah,
think
we
this whole
agree.
idea that mobile gamers are casual is BS, frankly, because I actually was not an EVE Online player before. I was more of I enjoyed the mobile game aspect more, so I was super excited when Echoes came out. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to address some of these changes. We know there's a lot of different things they need to work on. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of CSM forming for EVE Echoes, probably at a much more rapid rate, because we can see that this game has advanced so much faster than EVE Online did when it first started. I mean, we had alliances and coalitions before the game was released, so we're just definitely at a big exponential kind of growth rate. So to be able to have some of those most important changes get fixed, I think would be important, because it is an important thing to note that the fleet commanders really do drive a lot of content, as JD said before. Speaking of JD, did you have a comment on tie-dye? I know that you had spoken up before.
Sure. The thing that people need to understand is it's not going to be applied to like the 20v20 small gang fights. It's basically it's probably going to be instituted the same way as EVE Online, where those massive fights, you might get the initial spike, but then it'll return to normal. But for those big fights, 10% tie-dye. And I will say, depending on the type of tie-dye they introduce, it can be absolutely atrocious. BTAC-R was miserable. But there are other fights where it's definitely a lot more manageable.
100%. Now, I mean, because the fleet commanders are the type of role that really helps this game, why should more players take an interest in becoming an FC if it is kind of stressful, if it is hard? Chris Green, why don't you maybe give a little bit of a shout out as to why players might be interested in this?
Yeah, the biggest draw that I find, and the reason I even ever became an FC, is because I wanted things to happen. Like, I got bored of sitting in stations, spinning the ship around, right? So if you want things to happen, the best source of that solution is yourself, right? So if you want to, I don't know, send a frigate fleet out, for example, just bring a bunch of T4 frigates, go out, get some people in together, and you'll take command, and you'll start to understand how it goes and why you need to do it. Because without people like that do that, you end up just sitting in station, and nobody likes just sitting in station, or nobody likes just aiming lasers at rocks all day. It is good to have something to do, whether that be industry or in our case, fleet command.
100%. I was gonna say, if you were gonna say nobody likes talking in stations, I was like, wait a second, what? Karinsky, what about you? Do you have any advice to someone who'd be interested in becoming an FC?
So what I tell our guys, they reach out and they say, I don't really know what to do. Maybe I can just help on a small squad level. It was kind of what I think Sav said it earlier. Just go out and kill something. So we have a very robust ship replacement program in all of our junior FCs from the start of the game. If you applied to the junior FC program, we now do classes. So we've got a tutorial video on basics of fleet ops that gets everybody comfortable with what the lingo is, right? Because fleets have very specific lingo. Most of us probably have very similar lingo, but it's a little different across alliances. Then we've got specific videos that teach the basics for an FC. So if they want to know how to take 10 people out and fight and what to do, because it's not an NPC, it's like, these are your what to do's. And then after that, it's, hey, go grab 10 or 20 people in destroyers and go find something. Go figure it out. You're all going to die. That's fine. I'll replace all your ships. No harm, no foul. Give me an after action, right? Or sometimes I'll do a ride along. I'll go with them, or another senior FC will go with them, and then we'll debrief them afterwards. And we're like, look, dude, this is what you did really good. This is what you can do better with. It's all about just the communication piece, and you have to empower them. You have to empower your players to want to do it. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. got like something like 100 people signed up right now as junior FCs. Some of them are taking out fleets daily. Others are still hesitant and trying to figure it out. And one of the other things I recommend is, especially if you're in a major alliance, do it within your corp first. Grab your corp mates, the people you talk with every single day. Grab them, go out in a small group, and find something to shoot at.
Oh,
That
100%.
is solid advice. That is solid advice. Yes.
I would say, Claudius, you made some really good points good points there. Actually, a lot of the FCs, junior FCs that are now in OBS, the reason that they became FCs was because sometimes, we have people from all over the globe in our team, different time zones, and I was the only one scheduling fleets, and they're like, well, I can't join any of these fleets. They're not in the right time for me. So they just started becoming an FC so they could actually do something. And so we got a bunch of new FCs for that reason. And 100%, you're right on the money with that. I think another reason why you might want to become an FC is if you're looking to challenge yourself in a video game in a way that you probably can't challenge yourself in any other game. Becoming an FC is definitely one way to challenge yourself to an extreme in a game, especially a game as complex as this. It's really fun, really hard, but it's really enjoyable. Just like the only thing I would say is just like try not to I lose my voice sometimes the next day. I'm just like I don't even realize that like I'm talking so much, and then the next day I'm like, holy crap, I can barely talk.
Cough drops, man. Cough drops.
But it also sounds like you just need to FC more.
Practice, train that throat.
Commodity. FCs are a hot commodity. They create content, and they should be treasured, in my opinion, and trained. Just in general, across all these alliances, not just personally. I think it's a hot commodity to have.
100%.
A good FC is something you should treasure and back up. Absolutely.
And this really brings us into that teamwork style of the game. I mean, this is kind of what takes us out of just a game, and this brings it into we are really a virtual team. I know that we don't do much with esports in EVE, but you really are the captain of your squad, and you are facing other people with other different strategies, and it's a very unique opportunity to feel like you can fly a bunch of different people in their spacecraft and command them. I mean, that instills a lot of confidence that can do a lot for you in terms of learning how to become a leader. Even if you're not a massive scale FC, just even doing some of the smaller gang stuff, I highly recommend it for anybody who's interested. And as Karinsky was mentioning, making sure to have your pilots equipped with anything that they need, not flying really blingy ships that they're going to be worried about losing. Fly cheap stuff. Then you're not going to worry if you do blow up, whatever, you blew up a few caracals, who cares?
Unify. I found that the groups that manage to unify and use superior tactics are able to fight gangs 3 times their size with worse ships. It's just anchoring correctly, using certain strategies, a mole bubble. There are ways for you as 20 to kill 60. I've done it. You can see my videos constantly. This is what we do. So it's more the strategy aspect of it, I think, than numbers. I just wanted to add that to the conversation, I guess.
Great point.
Awesome.
Quality.
Now, we are going to be wrapping up in the next few minutes, but does anyone share a high-stress situation from a story they've encountered in one of the large battles you flew in, and how you overcame it?
Does it have to be in Echoes or Eve?
It's fine for me if it's Eve.
Eve Online, I had a pretty bad one. I once jumped 300 capitals into a system that had around 450. And this was back in the day when it was like, I think 2007. And
when it mattered.
The servers
When it mattered.
weren't set up, and basically no one loaded grid. And it was a turkey shoot for everyone there. So I pretty much caught 350 capitals wiped out just on a whim of jumping. But listen, as an FC, you got to learn how to take these losses. Okay, it wasn't you, it was a certain. I mean, you gotta take it in stride. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you'll just. I found the best FCs have the thickest skin. You know, like they're able to take a lot. So whatever.
Yeah, don't be afraid to lose stuff.
One bad call, it wasn't gonna destroy. You know, I kept going after that, and all is well.
And how did the team take it?
Well, it was CVA. I don't know if you guys know CVA. It was when they were fighting AAA. I mean, they took it well. They did well. I wasn't the only one. It was a group of FCs deciding, but I did push them to jump.
How long?
So
How
that
long
was-
did it take for them to stop posting that on the forums?
I don't even remember. But what I remember was it was a literal turkey shoot. Like we jumped in, and everyone was bubbled, and I could hear from my AAA friends that they were just turkey shooting capital all day.
I'm sure it was on the forums as it was happening.
Yeah,
there's
it
no
was
doubt.
already there.
There's no doubt.
I'm sure some of you guys have had even worse ones than that, huh? Come on.
Not 350 capitals. I can't say that I've ever had that
Yeah,
much of a loss.
The most I've lost was a full fleet of rocks.
Really?
Oh, from a mining
It's-
op.
No. I assume you're talking about Roke's, the battleship.
Oh,
right?
rogues.
Yeah.
What happened?
If it makes you feel better, dude, we had a faction battleship fleet that we had been spending all day shipping them down. All day. We literally bought out every Armageddon Navy issue in Jeddah. We shipped them all down in one day, and we were going to this fleet fight. We jumped in, probably like 70 to 100 bombers decloak. The bombs start coming in. I scream at the top of my lungs, everyone MJD, and Sword Dragon, who I hope in real life is a very, I'm sure, nice person, but as a EVE Online evil person, I hope that his account gets deleted. Said, no, nobody do that. And turns out we lost every single one of those Armageddon Navy issues. So
Didn't he? Isn't he gone now?
Yeah, Sort said he might be playing Echoes, but he might not be. But I mean, I PvP'd with him in media about Eve Echoes being a real game, and he tried to tell me it's not going to be a thing, and I was like, Eve Echoes is going to be a thing, and now look at us here.
One comment, MJD, you would have survived if you had just jumped out, right?
Oh, I did survive. I MJD'd, and all the other ones who stayed there died.
No, my point is the fleet would have survived, and this is bureaucracy and politics that sometimes...
Yeah. That's what happens when you get into coalition fleets and alliance leadership leading fleets and stuff like that. But the thing I'd have to say in Echoes, back to your question, Fish, probably the most stressful fight was definitely the RG9 fight when it was 300 of us versus about 700 enemies, and we were facing those DCs because you have zero maneuverability. You have everything you want to do is basically impossible to disconnect.
Yep, and damage. It seemed like we would do a round of damage on a player, and then all of a sudden they would be invincible.
Yeah, we're battling the server. It's like the damage stopped registering, so we had to switch targets and then switch back to that target and then switch targets again, then go back to the main target. It was, oh man.
Yeah, and then
Seems like we're fighting the server more than we're fighting the enemy.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're PvPing with the devs at this point.
This game is not ready for that type of fight, guys.
No, it's not.
So
It's
I guess
not ready.
in terms of this,
Something that was in a bubble that didn't look like it was in a bubble. Oh,
it sounds
every
like
single time.
in terms of the summary of this this episode, it sounds like don't fly what you can't afford to lose. Try to go for some small gang PvP. Practice, and let's continue trying to work with the devs to make sure that the most important changes get addressed first. They do take lots of player feedback, but I think we can kind of try to help organize and continue to, as Tahini says, believe, to continue to try to make sure that this game is as awesome as possible. Does anyone have any other stories to share before we sign off?
I just have a little bit of advice. Even if you're an old FC, you've been doing this for a while, don't be afraid to ask your fleets afterwards. Hey, do you guys have any critiques, comments, concerns? Did I do anything wrong? What do you suggest I can do? Don't be afraid to listen to that feedback. That helps so much, and it develops FCs rockets and miles beyond what they normally would on their own if they don't listen to their players. So keep in mind the people that you're leading.
Yeah, but you have to know the difference between constructive criticism and someone in your fleet who's just a bitch.
That's true. Yeah,
That's very true.
Sovereign, you gotta have a thick skin. I'm sure you have one of the thickest skins in this game.
I try to, not always.
With that beard, I'm sure you're handy and strong, buddy.
There's some buffering, but it's still difficult sometimes.
Exactly.
Very funny. Well, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I do want to let all the viewers know that this is going to be one of the last official live Talking in Stations Hall of Echoes shows on Sunday. We'll probably be tuning in to do a special edition every once in a while. But as we get more invested into the game, we're going to be spending some more time into doing team content. And we got a lot of politics and diplomacy going on, so just want to make sure I'm there for the team. But be sure to tune in. We might have somebody replacing some of these Hall of Echoes episodes. And again, I will be doing some other content, so be sure to check it out. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and fly safe.